Well, hello everyone. I started to say good morning because it is morning for me, but I'm looking at all the questions here and I'm going, wow, this is pretty amazing. So we got people from everywhere, and that makes a difference. And whether you say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or I don't want to say good night because that always sounds like a closing. But this is Eric coming to you from downtown Huntsville, Alabama, where in response to Sam's question, yes, we're getting clobbered from the remnants of Hurricane Harvey. And last night and this morning, we've had some horrific winds. We've had some pretty hard rain, but it is dead still right now. I don't know what that means, but it's kind of cool. Having a great day, though. Looking forward to a fantastic webinar. So go ahead and tell us who you are, where you're from. I just saw Herman saying good afternoon from the rainy Netherlands. And so good afternoon to you, Herman. Jay from Lubbock, Texas. Deborah says good morning. Stefan from the Corsica. Al from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Good to have you. Get in that neighborhood a lot. Stan from St. Petersburg, Florida. We have Helmut from Bavaria, Carol from PA, and Gloria always is with us, and she is from Oregon. So it is early in the morning for her, as it is for many of you on the West Coast. And I know that I had a friend from Australia say she was going to try to join today, but this is really late for them. So hopefully she was able to do that and make it a good opportunity for her as well. So Royal from Atlanta, who else do we have? Let's see. We have Carol. It's good to hear that you did that, Carol, from Corpus Christi, Texas, surviving Harvey. I have a lot of friends in the Houston area who I love dearly, who I've checked on frequently, who seem to be doing very well, but not everyone is. And so my heart goes out there because I've spent lots and lots and lots of time in Houston, Texas. It was an amazing place for me. I always enjoyed going there. Helen says greetings from Ireland. Joy from New York. Let's see, who else do we have? We have James from Coventry, UK, where it's sunny and nice today. And Marion from Vancouver, Canada. We have a good crowd today. I'm looking at the numbers grow, and that's a good thing. So, as always, nice to have it. And then there's Jean from Northern Illinois. Always nice to have a good crowd of people on. It makes for a good experience. And Ralph from San Marcos, California. Anybody else? And we'll get this kicked off this morning. I always like to take the first couple of minutes just to let people introduce themselves, let us know where you're from. And that gives you an opportunity to use the chat system and all of that. And we know everything's working and everybody's being seen, and all of that's good because we're going to ask you if you have any questions as we go. And if you do, if you have questions, make sure that you use the three Qs, as you see the note in the middle of the screen right now. Use the 3 Qs or 3 question marks. That way we're able to identify that. And always when I say that is just about the time that Gloria posted. And so whether you heard me say it or saw Gloria post it, that's what we would like for you to do. That way it makes it really easy for us to be able to stay caught up on your questions. Otherwise, they're a little difficult for us to identify. There we have James from Pascagoula, Mississippi. I saw James earlier, meant to mention that, I forgot, sorry. And then we have Henrik from says good morning as well. So good crowd, good opportunity today, a good webinar for you this morning. Nice. I have a nice little agenda. It's going to be a little different than normal, but I want to say this. Last week we had some confusion. We have people with all kinds of different levels of experience on the Friday training webinars. Sometimes I'll address people with advanced experience. Sometimes I'll address people who are brand new. It doesn't really make any difference. That's the reason why we do the webinar replays. We want you to be able to get the information regardless of where you're at. But it is very, very difficult for us to address just one crowd and maintain this as a weekly training webinar. So What we want to do is we want to make this a really good experience for everyone. We will, both Gloria and I are here to watch for your questions and do our best to address those. We always like to make this a very interactive kind of webinar, so that I have an agenda that I want to follow as closely as possible. But sometimes we deviate from that agenda because important or key questions have been asked that we need to pursue. So make sure that you understand and make this the best experience possible for everyone who is involved. Gloria just posted the replay link, which is always available at support.youzigntraining.com, and you can find the replays there. I did discover that we were having a little bit of an issue with the replays from the past 3 or 4 weeks since we changed the platform, and so I fixed that. We've got that taken care of. Those replays were not appearing the way they had appeared when we had the other platform, so we had to make some adjustments. And the good thing is that this now enables me to clip that front dead air space off where we're playing the music, because not everybody enjoys my classical music that I play at the beginning of the webinar, and nor do they enjoy sitting and waiting for 10 to 15 minutes before the webinar begins. So we'll clip that off. That'll be in the replay. So it actually, the little change that we had to do with the platform will make the replays more beneficial to you. And so I'm hoping that this will be a much better experience for everyone involved, and they should be available. I don't know how quickly Rose can get that posted in the support page, but usually by Monday afternoon, Tuesday is usually when that becomes available. Okay, see that comment. All right, let's get started here. I want to remind you of something as we begin. We're always looking for guest features, and we haven't had as much response to this as I would like to have had. Our very first guest was Stephanie Beck, and she was very, very eager to do this, and we've been a little reluctant since then. We've had some people. Gloria was on, which was just awesome. It was awesome to get a chance to see her and listen to her talk about her experiences. And so if you have any questions about that, I'm sure Gloria will give you kudos as to being that guest. Yeah, Herman said it was a pleasure to be interviewed by Eric, and hopefully it is, and it's a good experience for you. We'll give you the access to the YouTube version of the interview as soon as it is edited and available. Because sometimes things happen during the course of that interview that we have to edit out. So please understand that, and that's important. But if you're using Youzigne or GIFZIGN and you are making money doing that, and you're using it in your work or whatever, we want to give you an opportunity to feature your work. We want to get a video. We're going to give you a video of the interview, and if you're not that person, then feel free to nominate somebody, encourage them, send them a private message, and let them know you'd like to hear from them. And then here's the routine. You have to send me a private message on Facebook. When you send me the private message on Facebook, what I do then is I send you a Zoom request. We do a brief interview on that Zoom request, and then we schedule a time when the two of us can meet together by Zoom. And they use Zoom to record the interview. That way you can share screen, share your designs, and all of that. So that's good. Okay, let's get into the agenda for today. First thing I want to point out is this kind of might have gotten lost in the shuffle. This was a comment made about the Youzigne marketplace community. And so I grabbed that, pulled that out so that you could have that. And it is also found right here, and that's the Youzigne marketplace, different than the Youzigners group. Purpose of this is to create a marketplace where you can talk about your skills and your services, and we're in the process of putting that together. So make sure that you go in, that you join that Youzigners group or that Youzigne marketplace. page, and we'll give you the details inside of there as to what that's going to be. Gloria, if you could post the link to that, I would appreciate that. And so give her a chance to be able to do that. But I want you to go in, join that page, or I'm sorry, you just have to like the page. It's different than joining a group. So you like the page, and from there you'll be able to, good morning, Charles. There you'll be able to get more details about what's happening with that Youzigntraining marketplace. Kind of excited about what this means. This is going to be an opportunity to be able to sell designs and that kind of a thing. So very good opportunity for you. Okay. Now, I want to do something today. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to repeat last week's poll. And I'm going to do it because we have a whole bunch of new people on today. And so this is last week's poll, and I want you to help me with this, all right? This is really, really important. Gloria just posted the link to that Youzigntraining fan page, and if you will go in and like that sometime today, I would appreciate that. Just click on it now and then come back to the webinar. Don't leave with us, but come back to us. All right, here's the poll that I need, and we need it pretty desperately, okay? This is going to help me to formulate some things. And so I'm going to ask the same question. If you would like help, what would you like help the most? Ideas on how to market, or ideas for business, or both? Please indicate that, because we have some new people. I desperately need to know which of those two things. We just talked about the marketplace, and so I think that that's pretty valuable. Oftentimes how to market stuff, and everybody's marking C. That's pretty much what we had the last time. Have a few B's, we have a few A's, but we're getting an awful lot of C's. That's pretty much what we had last time. But thank you for doing this, because this helps me a lot in figuring out how's the best way to position this, what's the best way for us to be able to give you things, make things accessible to you, to take the time that we do on Friday sometimes. And sometimes we'll promote a product that can be helpful to you, that will give you ideas on marketing or business, or both. And so it just really helps us to know that there is an interest in that, and I think it can be helpful to you. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second poll, we're going to switch from letters to numbers. And what do you need help with the most? And I'm not going to give you a both choice here. Either design ideas or editing skills. Which of those two is going to be the most beneficial to you? Design ideas or editing skills? And Gloria, you're going to have to help me keep track of this. So far, we're dead even. Most of the people, though, are coming up with, well, then we flip it the other way. So we're pretty even here, but and naturally we have somebody who says both, so that's good. Thank you. I always like I love the rebel in the crowd, because that's always me. So thank you. All right, sounds like we need to do both, so that'll be good. We'll talk about some things today that may be helpful with those as well. All right. So with that, let's get into the things I want to talk about today and that are on our agenda. The first one is, Gene made this post on the 30th of August, which was a couple of days ago, and he showed he mentioned how that this got him more views by placing a GIF in his news feed promoting a Civil War reenactment that was going to go on. And that was a great post. It was a great concept. And so this is a great thing to do. Now, what Gene did here is he took and I'm going to show you a simple step for this today, okay? I'm going to show you a very, very simple step on how to do this, but and this is a great skill. So regardless of whether you're using GIFZIGN or just using Youzigntraining, it doesn't really make any difference. You're going to learn a technique today that will be helpful to you, okay? We're going to happen to be applying that technique to GIFZIGN. So this is what I did right here. This is my GIFZIGN screen. Me and my partner, Tom, we do a coffee shop show every Wednesday morning. And so I took a little clip from the coffee shop show. We do that as a live feed on Facebook. And I took a little clip from the coffee shop show, and I did an overlay down here at the bottom with this. You'll notice On jeans, what he did was that he did exactly the same thing, except he put a border around the outside of it, which I really love, by the way. The border made it stand out. And put the details below, which was great. I just grabbed this morning and said, okay, let's do this, and I'll show you how to do the overlay, because using overlays are extremely important in your skill set of the things that you can do. And once you've learned how to do that, then you can take that and apply it anywhere. You can do basically anything. Anytime you need an overlay with a video or with a GIF or whatever you're going to do, this can be extremely helpful to you. And so we're going to walk through the process of that once we get finished with the agenda here this morning. And I get to the end, we're going to go back. The first screen that we'll open up is going to be the GIFZIGN screen. And I'm going to show you how I created that, because the steps involved in this are pretty cool. And I want you to get that. And I think it's important. Okay, and then we're going to talk about layouts inside of Youzigntraining, and I want to give you some tips about the layouts, because we have a very, very detailed layout area in Youzigntraining, but we don't have everything. And because we don't have everything, I'm going to give you a couple of tips that will help you with that. We're going to talk about templates today, not the templates of the template club, although that's amazing, because right now we're up to, I think, 3,113 templates in the template design or in the template club. And that gives you all kinds of stuff that you can use. You can take apart, you can change, you can modify, giving you some tremendous skills. And I remember my interview with Stephanie. She talked a lot about how beneficial the templates were to her, and how easy it is to take those templates and make some slight modifications and get what you needed to do. So we'll talk about templates in just a little bit, but I'm going to give you something other than the template club this time, okay? So with that said, we'll show you where to put your templates, and I'm going to give you some examples in just a moment. All right? Because for those of you who have smart mockups, and smart mockups is one of the few things that we have ever, yes, Gloria will be glad to give you that, Teresa. Smart mockups is one of those deep integrations that we do at Youzigntraining. We don't do very many of those. We do that with smart mockups because we think it's an amazing mockup tool, and we wanted you to have the ability to be able to do that. So here's what we have. There's new templates in smart mockups, and they're different sizes, and I want you to see the size right here. And so I'm going to show you how to take the templates that we have and use templates for your layout tools, okay? Because sometimes there's just certain cool stuff, and I'm going to show you some in just a minute. But there's some really cool things that you need to be able to do, and I don't want to forget. You don't want to forget what sizes those are and go back and forth. And so I'll show you some simple things that you can do in using the capabilities that you have inside of Youzigntraining to make that happen. Because here's what takes place. This is pretty common problem. People want the software to do exactly what they think it should do. And that isn't always possible. And I don't care whose software it is. They get the idea that there's Joanna from Portugal. She's normally from the Netherlands. She's visiting Portugal. And so cool. All right, this is what happens. People expect the software to be able to do just this thing so it solves their problem. But the truth is that if you will develop problem-solving skills, you'll have far more capabilities, and that's what people hire you for. They hire you, when people were asking about business a while ago, people hire you for your problem-solving skills. They hire you for your ability to be able to solve a problem. And so the better you get at creating those problem-solving skills, the more value that you bring to the community. Okay? Does that make sense? Is everybody understanding what I'm talking about that when I'm talking about problem-solving skills? Just very important that we understand how those, we're not going to get something that's going to do absolutely everything we've ever wanted it to do. What we need to do instead is develop habits and skills that help us to be able to solve whatever problem that we face, because then that makes us incredibly valuable. Okay, so I focus a lot on problem-solving skills, and I'll show you usually one of the easiest ways to do that, and I may show you multiple ways to do that. But it's because we want to help you to develop your problem-solving skills. We're going to talk about some tips and tricks, and then we're going to do our best to answer the questions that you have presented to us. So with that said, let's move from the agenda to the next thing that we're going to do. Give me a second to make a change here, and I will be ready to do what we have to do next. All right, you should be seeing my GIFZIGN screen now. Is that correct? Do you all see my GIFZIGN screen? Let me see if you can see that. Yes. All right. Should be on my GIFZIGN screen now, and you will see this is how I got to where I'm at. So I'm going to take you through the process, kind of. What I did here, because this can be very helpful to you. I did a screen capture. This had been recorded, put up on YouTube. The coffee shop show. So I opened up the YouTube, I did the record screen, I captured the little clip that I wanted to use in this GIF. So that's there. Now, what I did was I grabbed that and I saved it here as an MP4. Now, you'll notice that I have a bunch of stuff down here at the bottom. I did that on purpose. I ran this long so I'd have a place to put that little banner at. What I did from there was I downloaded it as an MP3 so that I could upload it again. And here it is, or I'm sorry, as an MP4, and here it is. Okay, so I load that up. And as soon as it loads up here, you'll notice that I have this blank content down here. I had gone into, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute, but I'd gone into Youzigntraining. I'd created this little overlay right here and did that. Now, got a little positioning issue right here. The way I created, the way I knew how to position that was I went into Cinemagraph and I exported the image. And by exporting the image, I knew exactly what size it was going to be. Didn't have any size issues there. All right. And then I took that over, and then I created the overlay in Youzigntraining. I'll show you how I did that when we get to Youzigntraining in just a minute. I created that overlay. I want to position it so it's clean and it's tight. I've gotten rid of all the little white area on the outside. So make sure that it's positioned properly right there like that. Now when I look at this, I'm taking that overlay and it will load up in GIFZIGN here in just a second. And there you see the GIFZIGN playing, and you see the little intro here. The difference is that I have Eric and Tom turned backwards, but it's supposed to be Eric first. Tom just happens to be on that side. So, all right, does that make sense? Let me know if you understand what I'm talking about here with this little overlay template. Is that clear? All right. I'm going to jump in here into this conversation that's going on for just a minute about the development queue. Because I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Stephen, and I want to make this is where it gets complicated. Okay, you take a piece of software to a point where It's got lots of features in it. And so if you say we're working on this and then something else becomes a priority, it's more difficult to do that. And so we reach a point where it's hard to say this is what's going to happen next, because, and I used to do that. We used to do that all the time. But what happened was that we always told you what was coming up next. The problem is we've reached a point where what comes up next sometimes has to take an awful lot of development to make even the simplest thing happen. So in the meantime, use the skills that you have, develop good practice habits, and that will help you a lot. Love to have everything work exactly the way it's supposed to, but it's one of those things that it just gets more complicated the bigger the software gets. And so you have to work through those issues, all right? All right, Teresa says that that's clear, but she needs to practice more. So you see where I did that at? Over here, I just uploaded the image. The other thing I can do is I have the Youzigntraining capabilities. It takes a little while for that to load, so I'm not going to load it today. But I could have saved that as a template. I could have saved it as a design on my dashboard and then pulled it in from there. It was faster for this morning's webinar just simply to download it and pull it in. So that's how I did it. All right, but that's where that Youzigntraining integration becomes helpful as well. But you can do this. This is, and now I'm going to show you how I created this overlay. All right. Sam, I'm not sure if that question has this. We recorded this on YouTube. Or I'm sorry, we recorded that on Facebook Live, and so that's as Gloria's saying, that's probably reversed by the webcam, not reversed by Youzigntraining or by GIFZIGN. Okay, so let me stop sharing this screen. Let's go to the next one, and we'll get into the design canvas on Youzigntraining. I'll show you how to create that. Give me just a second to get my stuff here. During the course of any given webinar, we end up with multiple screens and things get in the way. Gloria will be glad to do that for you, Al. Now, let's take a look at how I created that overlay. We're going to go through, we're going to back up and do this the way I had created the overlay here. So just pull that down out of the way so we can see this. I'm going to go over here to my uploads, my screen where I can see this here. I'm going to go over to my uploads. I'm going to grab that. Remember, I clipped that image from the Cinemagraph area, and that's it right there. So I clipped that image out. Now I've brought it onto my design canvas. I know what my size is, 637 by 447. That's my size, and that's the size that my final GIF's going to be. So I now have that area, and I want to move this all the way to the back so you can see what we're doing here. And now I have that area. So what I did was, and I'll delete this right here. I'll save that by pulling it off the screen. And we'll show the off-screen elements. So now I have to cover this area up. When I did the screen capture, I purposely made it long. And I ran it down into an area that I wanted to clip off, and I want to put that banner on. So that's the first thing to remember, is that when you're doing the screen capture, you want to make it the size that you want to end up with. And sometimes that means you got to make it a little long. So what I did then was I went over to my graphics tool. I grabbed this, just a box. Let me get this so it's the right size here. And I changed that color. And then I can grab this, but remember this is going to be behind now because I've added a new element. So I'll bring that one to the front, pull this up here like this, and I can see a little editing I need to do. And there it is, the coffee shop show. And so now I have this positioned just exactly the way I want it to be. And I'm going to grab the image itself. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to make sure that my background is transparent, because the transparent background is what makes the overlay work. Okay? Let me see if there's any questions here. So now I have a transparent background with an overlay, the size that that image was. Make sure that you download that as a PNG file, because if you don't download it as a PNG file, you won't have a transparent background, you'll have a white background. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? This is how you use overlays, and you can do this on all kinds of stuff. This is a tool that you'll use for video. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Somebody asked me a question about how do I do transparencies and overlays on video. This is how you do that. This is how you do it if you're using GIFZIGN. Using transparencies and overlays are extremely beneficial to you. This is something that you'll do a lot. Now, you can do this for all kinds of things. If I wanted to, if I wanted to blur out Tom's head, I could have done that. But this is the way that you create transparent overlays. Then I took that overlay, and you saw what I did with it in GIFZIGN. I took I created the GIF. I pulled that in as an MP4. I took this overlay and I overlaid it over top of it as an image, made it fit perfectly. It was really, really close. I just needed to tweak it just a tiny bit, and then I was ready to go. Okay, so that's how you do that. That is a great tool. Gene did a great example of that in the group when he showed how he did that. And I wanted to take just a moment today and say, if you do this with GIFZIGN, if you do it with a video, I did it last week very quickly at the very end of the webinar with the video, just develop the skill of using these overlays, and you'll be amazed what happens with that. Now, I'm going to give you another example. At least I thought I would. Put that somewhere else. Of using the overlay tool. So this is a capability that we need to develop. And so what I'm going to do is get rid of these other elements, move this one to the back. I'm going through these steps purposely and deliberately so that you'll understand that some of these skills are things that you need to be able to do. Now, this shirt, somebody asked this question the other day, how do I get rid of the writing there? Well, here's a way to do that. I had a little better image I was going to use this morning, but you'll see what I'm going to talk about here. So let's just grab this, pull this down here, and if I didn't want to make, if I wasn't going to show that, I can actually take the overlay and I can make this disappear. I'm going to take this little tool right here, go to my custom eyedropper. So do you see how it changes color as we go? So I want to get the color right there. And I can make, it's not going to be, in this case, it's not going to be perfect because it's a wrinkled shirt. But I can position that so that that starts to go away. And that's a way to use those overlays to do something that's really cool. Now, if you want to take the same thing as a transparent overlay and do this with it, You say, why would I do that? Here's the reason why. Take the opacity and turn that way down. And you've changed the mood in the room. If I want to do this, and I want to make this a different color, I can do this. And I turn the opacity down on that, and I've changed the mood in the picture drastically. Okay, y'all with me? Make sure everybody's following along here. And yes, Gloria said about the off-screen elements, that's an important toggle right here. Hide the off-canvas elements or turn them on. Sometimes we'll lose something and we want to find it, and that's the easiest way to find it. Turn that off and on. I don't know about any of the rest of you, but I've lost things off the image before. Now you say, why would I put an overlay over the top of that? And the reason is simple, because if I don't have the overlay on this, in this case it shows up much better. But if that overlay were to be that's a good color, period. But sometimes the best way to get your writing to stand out is to use an overlay. And this question came up not too long ago in the group. People were asking, what's the best way to get there's two things that you can do that make your text stand out on your image. Yeah, Sam says to warm or cool the mood of the picture, and that's kind of what we were doing there. We can change that, and it's a great way to make the text pop as well. 3 things that you can do that'll make your text pop. One thing is, and we have some of the tools are right here under this little wand, and that's for the text effects. And I can put it's for effects. It's not just the text effects. I can turn on and off a border around the outside of that. If I turn on the border, I can click on the no fill, and I can make that just an outline rather than the bold, rather than the color text. But I can do that. That's one way to make it stand out. Another way to do it is to add a shadow to it. Adding the shadow makes a big difference, and we'll see a couple of examples of that in just a minute. Okay? Yeah, I love the shadows too. Gloria says she loves the shadows. How did you save that text in the basic text? That's a great question, and that's one of the reasons why I had this open, because I wanted you to see this. Over here, if I have a text that's just exactly the way I want it, I want to save that with a shadow around the outside of it. So I've got this just exactly the way I want it. I've got a shadow. I've got the shadows the right distance away. Everything's just exactly like I want it. Let me color this. Let me bring this background up a little bit so that it will be easier to see. When I do this, you can see the shadow a little bolder. Now, I can actually take this text, click on it, and go up here, and I can save that. When I click on Save That, it'll take a second for it to save. So while it's saving, I'll show you over on the side here, you'll see a whole bunch of text. I'm going to show you some things that you can do with that. From a business standpoint, the less time you spend on a design, the more profit that you'll make on the design. And so saving your text images can be extremely beneficial to you. And when you save those text images, you then have the ability to pull them back in exactly that way. And that will help you. Let me see if there's questions here while we're waiting for that to load that I can answer. Yes, it's called the text branding feature, but I'm going to show you the branding portion of that in just a moment, because the branding portion of it is really cool. Okay. All right. A little slow on the loading when we're trying to do a webinar and all the other stuff at the same time. But the text branding feature is very, very beneficial. And I use the text branding for this. And I'm going to show you an example of it as soon as that finishes loading. But I use the text. I save my clients' colors. So if they have 2 colors that they want to use on their website, or 2 colors that they want to use in their Facebook ads, or 2 colors that are going to be ideal for them, or 2 colors that are going to be the perfect are going to be the perfect, what's the word I'm looking for? Looking for a word, and I can't think of the word that I'm looking for. Or they have two colors that they want to use for a background, or they want to use it for as an overlay on their images, or whatever it is that they're going to do. If they have colors that they want to save, I actually save them. I have two places where I can save them. And we seem to be stuck in a loop here. So give me a second. I'm going to open up again. But that is on me. We are having an issue loading stuff. Is everybody still able to hear me okay? Been having issues this morning. Well, I don't know what's going on, but nothing's loading for me right now. So not sure what's happening here. I had the craziest day yesterday. Yesterday, Google Drive kept kicking me out. And so, I don't know. I apologize. We are stuck in a loop here. And nothing will open, nothing will move, and I can't refresh. Let's do this. Okay. All right. We haven't done it as much on this particular platform. I have multiple platforms that I do Youzigntraining designs in, and so this is one of the things that we do. Uses two colors, and they're both orange. Okay, so that's the bright orange. Now I've saved that because if I want to save that and make the background that color, then it's real easy to do. I also have saved the dark orange, and so these are branded colors. They go with the brand, and I saved them, and you save them right here by just simply clicking on that little save button there. Okay, does that make sense? Are y'all with me? All right, the other thing that you can do is I can take this color and I can save that color by clicking on this box right here, and that opens up my most recently used colors. And I can go in here and I can save those most recently used colors. I used those three colors, this one, and this one, when I was making the overlay on top of this image a minute ago. And so I can save the color, and then I can change the opacity like I did before. So by clicking on this, let me make sure that there you can see that. See, I've saved that color now here in this area. So probably going to get stuck in that same loop I've been in before, because for some reason my platform's giving me issues today. So we may do this without saving anything. So stick with me. All right, but does that make sense to you? That whole branding, I want to make sure that you get the branding portion, because using those colors and using the text and saving the text in a particular manner can be extremely beneficial to you. We end up with a bunch of stuff on top of stuff here, which is not what I intended to do. Okay, so is there any questions about that? Are you following along with what we're doing here? We're giving you a basic tool. The basic tool is I can get rid of these. My basic tool is the ability to use overlays. And I can use the overlay in GIFZIGN. I can use the overlay on a video. I can use the overlay on an image. And as Sam said a minute ago, I can use that overlay to change the mood. And by doing this, I can change the mood. I can reduce the opacity of that so it looks good. But I've changed the mood. I've warmed up that image. Or I can change that. and I can cool it down. And I can reduce the opacity on that. You can see, can you see the difference that makes in how the image looks itself? Is that clear to you? And what we're doing is we're simply taking the overlay abilities and doing some interesting things with those. Now, you can also, by saving the text, and what I did with the Tom and Eric, that was this font right here, which I like. That color stands out really well on a blue background, and put a shadow with it, put an outline around the outside of it, and it looks really good. You can do the same thing here. I've done exactly the same thing in saving this text as well. Use that text font, and then I saved it. But what I've done here is I've put a very light 2 pixel border around the outside of that, and then I could actually no-fill that if I wanted to. Now, does anybody remember what we used the no-fill for before? Question that comes up a lot. We get this question a lot. And yes, Xavier, you're exactly right. If we get in the habit of saving text, if we get in the habit of saving those colors and using them and keeping them and hanging on to them, it saves us a ton of time. And time's money. That's what people are paying us for. But if we can find ways to cut down on that time, then we have done something magical. And that allows us to be able to focus on the design itself. Okay? Now, we've done something in the past that this question has come up a lot. How could I take and make my letters look like we're getting ready to get into the fall, look like the leaves of the trees, or we're getting close to the Halloween season? How can I make it look like a stack of M&Ms or candy corn? And all you do is you take this little design tool here and you click on the no fill. Now, notice that this becomes whatever my background is. And I can save that, upload it, erase the background, erase all this image around the outside of it, and then I have these letters on the inside. And so there's some really cool stuff that you can do with that. I'm a little hesitant to click on those capabilities right now because for some reason we seem to be hanging up every time I try to do something. And I hate to ruin the webinar, but I want you to see that these are some cool things that you have that you can do. And doing them greatly expands what you can offer to clients, to customers, to other people. So we'll remove the overlay that's from that. You can see the color here. Once I have saved that with that color, if for some reason I want to change the color, say for example, I want to use that bright orange color, I go back over here and I'm now in my saved colors, and I can switch it to that bright orange because I've saved the color. I've saved that branded color. Yes, the erase the background. We do the erase background a lot because it seems to be the one thing that we don't do enough. And so I'm going to take this image right here, show you how that erase background tool works if we're not having other issues here. Every time I try to load something, I run into this continuous loop. And so stick with me. But the erase background is an amazing tool. And I don't know of anybody who does it better. I think Youzigntraining has an amazing erase background tool. I also think we're being stuck today. What day was it, Gloria, that somebody said that Youzigntraining was down? I had 4 other platforms that went down at the same time, or were having some kind of a hiccup at some point. So So just keep that in mind as you go. Understand this, that when something like this happens, we haven't abandoned you. We haven't left you. This is very, very rarely does this have anything to do with the platform itself. Usually it has to do with yeah, it was the day before. And I think it was an Amazon S3 issue. I honestly do. I think that's where the problem was coming from. And so, because it's usually the hosting platform that is. Yeah, everybody's saying that there is that they seem to be frozen right now. My biggest concern was that someday this would happen in the middle of a webinar, and it never has. And we've been very fortunate because this very rarely ever happens. Does it very rarely happen? But when it does, I was concerned that one day it would happen in the middle of a webinar. All right. Jay's asking, where is the most complete training? We have some pretty good training on GIFZIGN in the platform, or in the support page, and Gloria just gave you the post for that. I just try to show you how the two platforms work together. And then whenever we have a new update, and we have new mock-ups and new stuff that goes into the into GIFZIGN, we always spend a little extra time on that on Fridays. Yeah, seems like that's an issue. I just got a note from somebody else that they're having an issue on another platform. So it is a server issue. I wish I knew what the answer to that was. Don't know what the answer to that is, but this seems to be an issue this week. So, yes, I just got a message that there's another, if you heard the little ding in the background, somebody else is having an issue on a different platform. So, this looks like this might be a problem. All right, are there any questions? Let's answer questions. I'll do my best to try to do that and give you an explanation with a minimal amount of confusion here. Let's see if we can do this template, and I'll be done with what I had to share with you today from the agenda. When you, one of the things that was available in Smart Mockups now that wasn't there before, let me switch my screen to Smart Mockups so you can see this, because I want you to see this. Let me share a different screen with you for a moment. And if you are a Smart Mockup user, then you'll discover, and I do this because we do this a lot. We're in the design business. Youzign's a design company. So Sam's asking a question about his previous question. Gloria, do you know what that is? We'll do our best to try to get that done. Okay. All right. When you look at at Smart Mockup, we're up to 192 mockups. But going down here to the branding, which this was a new one for them. You go down to the branding, and no, magazines and books, that's where it was. Right here, love this. I absolutely love this layout design right here and this one right here, but it comes with the spine on the book. And so what I did was, when you open this up, this is not in our layout screen, okay? So because it's not in our layout screen, we're not going to have the ability to be able to do that. But you have the designs right here, okay? This one's a little bit different than the other one. When you go to this one up here, which I really like, you go to this one right here, and I use these a lot, by the way. I use these mock-ups a lot. And when you look right here, this is 1588 by 246. Well, 1588 by 246 is a design in Smart Mockups. But 160 by 2246 is not a design. So what I did was I saved this. If you go to my dashboard, I went in and I saved that. I created just a design that was 160 by 2246. And again, we're going slow again. I was hoping that we'd be able to do this. We're going to get there, I promise. We had it, then we didn't. Okay, gotcha, Sam. Sorry about that. All right. Let me switch my screen now. Because I want you to see this, because this can help you. What I did was I created, and I called it spine art. And it's just simply that size. So I know that if I'm going to do a book cover, I need to create a spine and I need to create a cover art. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to save it as a template. Can you all see that? We're going to save it as a template. And it'll take a moment for it to save it as a template. But when it saves it as a template, you can, Helmut, the answer to that question is by integrating Youzigntraining into GIFZIGN, is that it gives you access to all of your designs. For purposes of this webinar, I usually just download them because they're easier to find, click up, bring up, and pull in, and we're not waiting for things to integrate. Integrations are great, and they work really well, but they require but they're accessing your dashboard. Okay. All right, now I have saved that as a template. So when I go to select template, you see right here, it says done, launch this template from my templates anytime. So I click on my template, go here, and now I have that. I can pull that spine artwork in, and I will be able to edit that spine artwork, and it'll be the right size. Okay? Does that make sense? That's using your template capabilities to be able to make up for layouts that we don't normally have. And when people add layouts like Smart Mockups just did, I just started a podcast and needed to have a podcast layout. Well, our cover art's 3000 by 3000, which works perfectly for podcast, but I prefer to save all my images smaller than that, and you can do 1400 by 1400. So I simply took that and created a template for that as well. And so you can do you can save those in your templates. And what I always do is I write on the outside of this what that's supposed to be. For example, here's an example of that, the Facebook store template. Facebook now has a store. And so I just simply created a template that's the right size. It's the custom size for the Facebook store. And I saved that template so I can use it in the future. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? 1400 by 1400 is just a smaller image size. That's the only reason for that. Because sometimes I will take an image, use my own a personal image that I've taken on my phone or something, and I want to use that in my podcast as my podcast for that particular day. And so if it's 3000 by 3000, it might look grainy. It might not have as clear a definition, and so I saved them as 1400 by 1400. That's the reason for that. So a little smaller size is the only reason for that. All right, anything else? We're at the tail end of the webinar. I apologize for the hiccups there. Those were a little bit beyond our control. So Gainers asked, so the template size is based upon the spine sizes indicated in exactly. If I have something, anything, any kind of platform that uses a particular layout, then what I want to do is I want to create a template for that particular layout. And I just save it. And in this case, I save it as the Smart Mockup spine art. And by saving it that way, then I always know what that's for, and it'll be the right size every time. And then I just go in and modify it. Yeah, what I typically do, Xavier, is a great point. What I typically do is watch the webinar. If there is something that was not clear, I can't see the comments in the new platform that we have, but because I can't see the comments, I'll know because I can hear in my own voice. I make sure that we don't miss that. I don't want anybody to miss anything, and so if it was important enough for me to include it, I don't want to miss it. And you all were asking questions at the time, and that's when things we had the little hiccup in the streaming issue. So, but I will do that. Yes, always. Any other questions before we go? And as always, if you have suggestions, if you have questions, if you think of something that comes up later, we will have the replay that's available, but don't hesitate to ask the question in the group. Usually there's somebody that's there that's capable of answering the question, or somebody that can point you to an answer, or somebody who can take you by the hand and walk you through the answer. Don't hesitate to do that. And if you have suggestions for future webinars, don't hesitate to put them there either, because we definitely want to give you an opportunity to get your questions answered. So I think we've addressed everything that was asked during the flow of the webinar that we could do. So thank you so much for joining me. This is a holiday weekend here in the States, and so I will be around on Monday, but Monday's a holiday in the States. We're going to celebrate Labor Day. So have a great weekend wherever you're at. Be safe. Enjoy yourself. Have a great time. Thank you so much for joining us on Friday. We'll be back here next Friday, same time, same place, and we probably won't have any hiccups then. So thank you again for joining us. Always enjoy having my audience on